Well, welcome to the Glint Standard. Today, we are going to be meeting with Craig Lloyd. He is our president, CEO, founder. Anything else you want to add to the title there?
Nah, it's plenty long
All
already.
right, great. I'm Ryan. I am our business director here. So I know you're amazing at business. I know you're awesome at running this place.
Keep going.
Yeah.
Sounds so good.
But really, so your design background, right? I mean, that's
Okay.
that's a lot of the focus that you've had in your career. And so I want to focus on oftentimes what we're finding with people who, want to redo their logo.
Just their logo?
Yeah, so that's where the conversation always starts, right? Well, I want a new logo.
That's a pretty common
Yeah,
question
yeah.
or
So
comment. Yeah.
what I want to understand is first it's not just the logo anymore. When I'm saying this, right? So a
Right.
lot of people are like, okay, I want a new logo, and they'll go to some online resource where it's like you have 500 designers to choose from that pick your favorite logo kind of
Sure.
thing. So I mean, there's a million of them out there.
Yeah, and
So-
a lot of people get afraid of those things too. I
Right.
mean, it's not a big deal.
But what
right?
I have found in my career is when people do go there, they get one logo, right? And it's here's your logo, but it's not stacked. There's no variations. What does it look like on white?
No.
What does it look like on black?
That's true, and they often are not built correctly.
Right.
On the backside
Oh,
of
yeah.
how it's going to be used in the future. Let me just start here. A lot of companies that start and fail within a month, within the first year for sure. 5 years is a big mark if you can make it past that, right? So that's where that bread and butter comes from for those types of companies, right? If you're truly building a business that you've got a business plan and you're trying to build it to take it somewhere, either to sell, to grow, become dominant in the market,
Right.
you're going to be thinking about it very differently. And that's when that logo mark really becomes valuable. How does it work in black and white? How do you use it for social media? How do you use it digitally? Does it always have to look exactly the same, right?
Well, I guess that's the question, right? If I could pin it down to one thing is when somebody is thinking about redesigning their logo, do they need to think past just the first
Yeah,
edition of it,
absolutely.
right? And
But-
to what extent, right? Do
You know-
you get in the weeds of going, I need to see 15 different variations and what it looks like, or what's a good stop point for all that?
That's tough. And when you're going to larger organizations, it can be tough because you have a lot of opinion, if you will, right? Sometimes things just need to be refreshed a little bit, right? Sometimes they don't. I always go back to the branding piece of things first, right?
Right.
The logo mark is an identifier. That's what it is of your business. And because I know that business, here's what they stand for. All of that is not coming out in the logo mark. It's an image that makes you go, I know what that's about, right? Everything else you're doing is reinforcing what that stands for. Now, if you make boats, you probably don't want a horse maybe, right?
Yeah.
And make it look like you own horses, You play it the right way, the horsepower playing off the boat, I can see how that can mix in, but you're going to have to tell that story a little bit more, right? Through the logo mark, right? To truly make that strong. Taglines should always be a piece of that to help reinforce what the image is saying, right? And they should always have meaning. You should be able to go, tell me about your logo. Tell me what it stands for. Why does it look the way it looks? Well, it reflects things like this, right? It tells this kind of story. I love subtleties, the less is more in identifiers like that because it's a quick identifier is what it is. It's on all your materials.
So you keep saying identifiers, right?
Yeah.
What would you define as the brand identifiers? Like, if you could say like here's
Visually? Or
yeah, I mean obviously, right?
We can go along a lot of
could-
different paths there,
it's a
right? Your
whole
values are
nother
part of
way.
it, right?
Yeah.
Your mission's part of it. Your brand personality, the brand's voice.
Okay.
Those are all different things that start defining who you are. What the point of it all is to try and make sure anybody who's a part of the organization understands what communication and relationships should be with a customer, a vendor, a patron of some sort, right, and other employees, right, other
Gotcha.
partners. Partners can go across the board, but those help identify how you should be acting as part of this business, if you will.
Okay.
Goes a lot farther than a logo identifier, right?
Right.
But those are the things I'm talking about. It's not just putting it on a brochure, a website, things like
Right.
that. All those materials are supposed to be driving to a result, right?
Right.
In this day and age with the digital platforms, right? Coming off of an old school traditional guy here.
Yeah.
I've embraced it 100%. For me, the core of marketing, the foundation of it is always the same, right? Our tools have changed, and you have to embrace those tools. You have to be good at those tools, right?
Right.
And those tools are fantastic. Couple that with some of the old school tactics, and you're in a really good place. So,
Well, I think that's, you touched on it, right? Where the real point of our business, our podcast, all that, and the way that we're structured right now, is we have old school, and then we also have the younger viewpoint, right? I mean, I grew up in the digital world.
yeah,
That.
I had flash bulbs.
Yeah, well, I
You know?
remember those. I've seen photos of those, I
Yeah.
think, on Wikipedia or something. The era I grew up in, right? Now, I'm a little unique, and I'm technically a millennial. So,
I agree that you are unique. We'll just leave it at that.
okay. So, but no, I grew up in a day and age where I still remembered corded phones and dial-up internet, but my generation is now very easy to quickly adapt to new technology, because we know how it was built, right? So now we're like, okay, Facebook, yeah, I know how that works. I know everything that's going on in the back end. I know how Instagram is functioning. I mean, we don't have to know code to know how it works because we remember MS-DOS and looking at that and playing.
Yeah, but and you think about that, and I think the biggest challenge that we're going to continue to face is you have to get attention very quickly, right? And that's where that identifier, the logo, if you will, becomes so important.
Well, the attention span of somebody nowadays on social media actually scrolling through is less than 2 seconds.
Right. What you're looking for at that point, content's still a big piece of what drives engagement, right?
But that's also part of the branding.
It is part of the branding, but what you want is, if that's good, who gave me that? Because it's really awesome. I want more of it. So anytime I see this logo, I'm going to associate
with,
there's value in that for me.
Right.
Let me go here.
Yeah.
If you're trying to give information out, if you're trying to sell something and you've sold it, it's really good, that's an easy way to tie value to, right? And if it's crap, it does the same
Destroys
thing,
it.
and it goes the other direction.
Right.
So then you go somewhere and you go, okay, they're here. I don't like them. I bet this is crap too. And you go there and go, wow, people really do like it. Maybe I got
a bad
I just
one.
got a dud maybe, and maybe I should call them and figure it out, right? And see how they deal with me, right? That's what that identifier is doing.
Yeah.
It's walking up and basically seeing Ryan down the street. That's Ryan. I know what he's all about, right? In a personal aspect or a business aspect, right? But if I know you on the business side and I see Ryan, I know what I expect from that, right? If I see you on the personal side, do I expect something different? Probably. But at the core of who you are, you're still you.
Right.
And that's the important side of it. I'm often told there's work Craig and fun Craig, you know?
Well,
My wife likes one, doesn't like the other one as much.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But the core of who I am is still the same.
Right.
But you have to be able to adapt. And so does your brand. And your logo identifies where you are and you adapt for your environment.
So let's talk about that. Say you're a new company, right?
Okay.
And you're just starting out and you're starting to figure out this branding process. What do you think is now in today's world, knowing that we have social media avatars and we have email and we have all these different things that the logo is going to have to adapt to? What do you think is, as somebody starts to think through those, like if you had to go, here's your top 5 list, nail these things down first because then you can hit the ground running, right? Do you think that's also, I mean, I would assume that it is continually expanding now, because now you're talking about VR and AR, right? And how does that play out with your logo? And do you have a 3D rendition of it or not?
Yeah, and that's a good point. It has to be adaptable.
Okay.
Right? You talk about animating it, right?
Mm-hmm.
The animation, there's a million ways to do that. It has to reflect the initial intent, and it can't be whiz bang over the top if you're really trying to drive to a corporate audience, right? And that's what your feel is, if you will. You can have some movement,
Right.
You have some glitz and glamour come through it, don't get me wrong, but you don't want fireworks and all this craziness. Now, if you're an entertainment brand, of course, that's where it comes in. Think about movie trailers, right? Or when the start of movies. A lot of times now, the logo's there, but now it's done in rock and stone because it's a medieval movie and the sound's coming in before you can get to the movie, right?
Yeah.
You can adapt, and that's okay. And everybody's like, once the logo mark's there, it can't ever change. That's a hard way to live. It would be a hard way to live as a person. You can't ever change, right?
Yeah.
Brand's no different. The company's no different, right? So you can adapt and change it. You can also very easily go way too far, right? And it's lost in translation. You got all these crazy colors working in. Nobody knows what's going on. So brand standard guide will help define that a little bit.
Okay.
And then you have a team, a marketing team or an agency that says anything outside of these parameters that you think you want to do, you have to get approval first. And that helps keep everything in line so you don't have people running rogue on you and changing, not necessarily tarnishing, but also enhance what you've established such a long time ago, right? And it's important to meet internally, as a company, not just as an agency, but your own company, and talk about who are we? Are we reflecting who we are? Do we need to change into new technologies, right? Yeah. Do we need to become something else? How do we adjust our brand to reflect that? You might not necessarily need to change the logo. Maybe there's a little tweak here or there that might need to happen. Maybe not. But your story might need to change. Your personality might need to change. And that's how you start to that going forward. But either way, there should be elements of any brand, and the logo especially, that can be broken out, where you don't have to use it just like it is everywhere. But there's enough uniqueness to it that it drives in. And consistency is the key to driving that in.
And this is probably an entirely different video. But if you can very briefly touch on this, you mentioned it, right? Of like coming together and really getting a better understanding. Do we need to adapt and change, right? So we use a process called Brandscape that helps us understand that, right? A very extensive process. But tell us kind of maybe more of the background of a Brandscape. What is it? And how are we utilizing it, right?
Okay, let me, because we could go real in depth on this. So let me touch on it, right? So
it's the summary, if you could.
The key to it all, right, is taking the emotion out of it, right, for everybody. You have to talk to your customers, your partners, could be vendors, your internal team, everyone from the entry-level type person all the way to leadership. If you have a board, get some board involved. And run the same scenario and questions through them, right? And you could do, depending on how big the company is, this could be hundreds of people, right? Smaller companies, you get a pretty good taste. 20, 30 people is going to give you a pretty good idea where you stand today. It's a good exercise to go through as well, even if you think your brand is solid. Because we have gone through the pathway, and why we look at branding first now is we've gone down those pathways of doing really great marketing for companies that have fallen flat. And it's a horrible thing for us to do. It's a good way to waste a lot of money. But basically the story we all wanted to tell drove to the door opened, and that story wasn't there anymore. And it wouldn't convert, right? Because people aren't engaging the way we told them they would engage. That's what the Brandscape's going to do, and it's either going to confirm that everybody is on the same page and everybody feels the same way. Let's go do some marketing.
Right.
Or we're missing a point here. Let's talk about why. Okay, we can adapt and overcome that. That's no problem. Or you think you're this, your partners think you're that.
Right.
Your board thinks you're this.
Yeah.
The goals of what you're trying to achieve are all over the place based on your viewpoint. But at the end of the day, your customers think you're this.
Right.
So you're trying to deliver this, and they don't even want it. And it starts to mirror and marry all of that together to give you the best chance of being successful. And that helps define who you are. The hard part is, a founder, I'm one of those, if somebody comes in and says, yeah, you need to change, here's where it is.
Yeah.
You just come and tell me that with no background, I'm not going to be happy about that.
Right.
Because who are you to tell me that? Your expertise, you could be the best in the world. I want to know why, right? And this helps define the why.
How often should somebody, as a company, or maybe it's the marketing director, maybe it's just the president, CEO, depending on company size, right, is really looking at this? I mean, we have looked at, I can't even imagine how many brands that we've taken. Just a couple that we've taken through this process.
Yeah.
How often should brands be looking at that type of thing, right? Really doing a more conductive research? Is it every 2 years? Is it every 3 years? Like what's that sweet spot you feel like needs to be revisited?
If everything stays the same, I'm not a stay the same guy. Even if we're successful.
Yeah.
what can we do to leverage where we are, right? If everything's great in the company, you should still be looking at it probably every couple years.
Okay.
It can become a little burdensome at times to continually go, is this right? Is that right? And I'll fix my brand. It'll fix everything. It doesn't.
No.
It doesn't. There's something key going on in the company. Now, if you have changeover of tenure of a 20, 30-year leadership team, if you will, it might require some of that because the thoughts of where you're going as a company could change. Doesn't mean you've changed who you are, but the direction could adapt a little bit, and you want to reflect that, right? Other than if things are going great, every couple years, just revisit to make sure we're still all on point, or if we've shifted a little bit, do we need to tell the story again? Other than that, time doesn't matter.
Okay.
Usually, if you have change in the business, right, sales are down consistently, or they're up and down extremely different than the patterns you typically see in your business, right? And just take a year mark, right? People know when this is off, it's never been like this before, what's going on. Could be your sales team saying the wrong thing. You've got a lot of new people. They don't understand your brand. Maybe you just need a refresh with them. It's as a company grows, it gets diluted. And a lot of that comes down with, it's easy today when you hire new people. We've just hired somebody new, right? If you don't take them through the process of learning who you are and truly training them and getting them up to speed, that brand is going to get lost real quick. And you've worked so hard to get it there, you have to invest that time. But you get so busy, capacity, that's why you hire people typically. And they're there, you're going to get to work. And then you're just getting to work. And the work, it's getting done, maybe not the way it should be getting done. Not that it's wrong, but it's not being done the right way based on the company standards are, if you will.
Gotcha.
Right? So you revisit when you start to see trends of things that are off. Right?
Gotcha. Okay.
Quickest way to say it anyway.
Yeah, I know. It's like there's a lot of
there's a lot of places you can go with
there's
it
a lot
sure.
of depth on this topic specifically, because we really just touched on branding, and
it always falls back on that, right? And it does. So
it does, but
I'm not apologizing, but you're right. When you want to talk about a logo, right, a logo mark, it's really important.
But
it's
part of a bigger
very
picture.
Big picture. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I appreciate your time.
Sure, absolutely, anytime.
Okay. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah.